I'm now going to go through the code for the full evaluator class. There is a lot of code here, so I'm not going to cover it in great detail. I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm just going to give a high-level view of what this class is doing. All right, so just some of our previous data. Here is a hand, it's a pair of eights, and then we talked about all of these variables here and all the data that will be used to check whether you have a straight, a flush, a pair, three of a kind, and so forth. So here's the full evaluator class. Let me just scroll through it. So it's not a tremendous amount of code. This is the bottom, but it's certainly a lot. It will take a while to kind of look through. The constructor has remained the same. That doesn't change. This list of strings will be used during the official string representation. So we want to print out like what the actual card is or what the actual hand ranking is. This will be used. I'll talk about that at the end. All right, so let's begin here. This is where the new code starts. So this checks for a flush, as the name implies, and it looks for a flush by seeing if any suit appears more than or 5 or more times. And if it does, it returns a suit. If not, it returns -1. So you'll see this -1 a lot. This just means it did. A -1 just represents it is not that ranking. So if it is a suit, that means 0, 1, 2, or 3, it is a flush. This method gets the ranks of the flush cards. So this will be used for checking for a straight flush. So if you have a flush, this will get those ranks of those flush cards, and it will sort them, right? So now we haven't called any of these yet. I'll show you when they are called. I'm just setting this up. So we have checking for flush, really checking for, or just getting the ranks of the flush. Here's where we check for a straight. Ranks is a unique sorted list. For there to be a straight, ranks that are 4 apart also have to be separated by 4 in rank. So that means, let's just say the first rank in the list is 5, then the fifth rank needs to be 9, right? So they need to be separated by 4. So assuming that it's sorted, then you can conclude that there is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's what this does. It says ranks must be 4 indexes apart with a value difference of 4. So if that happens, then it will return the highest rank. Right, so that'll represent the straight, its highest rank, whether it's an ace high straight, a jack high straight, a 7 high straight. There's one more check over here for ace low straight, which means ace to 5. So that's what that does. All right, so now here's the main method. So this is what gets called, and it calls all of the other methods. And so this will check for all of them. This is where all of the logic does, and it'll end up calling all of these other methods to check for straights and flushes. All right, so let's take a look at it. The first thing is that instead of having to access this dictionary over and over again, it will get all the ranks that appear 4 times. These are lists, by the way, all the ranks that appear 3 times, 2 times, and 1 time. So very rarely do you have a rank that appears 3 or 4 times. In our current example, these are empty, but this will help us. It just shortens the code. Instead of having to write this out multiple times, we'll just refer to it as ranks 2. All right. So that's a list of unique ranks that appear that many times. So N3, yeah, this just counts whether the number of 3 of a kinds, the number of number of pairs, and then we do the checking. Okay, so the first thing we do is check if there is a flush. If there is a flush, then the flush suit will not be -1. And if we have a flush, we check if there's a straight flush. So we're going to start from the very top. That's how our evaluation works. It checks whether you have a straight flush, which is the most, highest ranking, and then 4 of a kind, and then full house, then flush straight, and down from there. Okay, so it checks for a straight flush. The next thing it does is it checks for 4 of a kind. So are there any ranks that appear 4 times? Then it checks for a full house right here. Do we have any ranks that appear? If there's 2 3 of a kinds, that works. Or if there is 1 3 of a kind and at least 1 2 of a kind, then we have a full house. The flush we've already talked about. Then we check for a straight. Then we check for a 3 of a kind. That means, do we have a 3 of a kind that appeared once? A 2 pairs, we have 2 of a kinds, and then 1 pair we have exactly 1 time, and anything else is just a high card. All right, so let me explain what is returned here. So what I've returned here is a number a tuple that represents its rank. So the first number in the tuple is a number between 0 and 8. That corresponds to high card all the way to straight flush, because there are 9 distinct categories of ranking. The next ones that are returned categorize that or the rank for that category. So for a straight flush, it's just the highest, rank of the straight flush, whether it's an ace high straight flush, a 10 high straight flush. That will help us determine how we rank that particular straight flush. Okay, so 4 of a kind, we return what is the actual rank of that 4 of a kind, and then the kicker. For the full house, we will return the 3 of a kind and then the 2 of a kind rank, right? So again, this is just all a tuple. The flush, we return all 5 of them. So we return 5. That's the ranking of the flush, and then we have this flush ranks, which are the sorted ranks, and this is just the order that they appear. So this will be the highest rank, because we want to differentiate like an ace high flush from a queen high flush and so forth, and we will rank them appropriately. And that's how that works. All right, now the last thing over here is we want to have a string that represents the hand. So we're going to have a string representation of the hand, and so it's going to so in the constructor, what happens is that it calls the evaluate method. So that's one thing I didn't do. So it's going to get this score right here. There's always a score. So it calls this evaluate method, and it returns this score, which is a tuple. All right. Now, the string representation is based on this tuple. So what's going to happen here is that the score is notice that I have unpacked this tuple. So this particular score is going to be one of numbers 0 through 8. These are the others. This is everything else that's returned is stored over there. So everything that comes after that first one is going to be in the others, and that will be another tuple as well. So now, okay, this is just getting the string representation of the rank for those others. Like, is it an A, a K, a J, and so forth. And then we use this scores over here, this list. So this is where we, if it's a 0, it's going to be a high card. If it's 8, it'll be a straight high flush. And then it uses the format method to just fill in those other rank characters, like a jack, 10, 5, whatever, so forth. All right, so let's see how this works. Here's our hand. Our hand is, and maybe I can print out the hand again. So here's our hand. We have 1 pair of 8s, and then we have an ace kicker. All right. So like I said, you're going to have to go look through this on your own to help better understand it, but hopefully that was enough to get you started. Over here, I'm creating random 7-card, hands, and passing it to the evaluator method to show what the actual hand ranking is. So we can see over here how it works. So here's a queen high or flush king high. There's 5 hearts. There's actually 6 hearts in that one. Here's I kind of skipped the high cards because they're not as interesting. Here's 2 pair, 9s and 8s. 9s and 8s with an ace kicker, and so forth. So these are just 10 random hands. So you can see how it's working and kind of test it out like that. All right, so that is the full evaluator class.